Welcome to this Newsmax Prime special. I'm J.D. Hayworth. Perhaps the best way to view the national experience we share every 4 years, also known as a presidential campaign, is to think of it as a job interview. And for 2016, it's readily apparent there is no shortage of applicants. Among those seeking our nation's top job on the Republican side, a gaggle of governors, a slew of senators, a brain surgeon, a businesswoman, and a billionaire. Our focus is on that billionaire.
Donald, thanks for your time. Lots going on. And let's begin with business and politics.
Okay.
Univision ending its relationship with the Miss Universe pageant. What gives?
Well, this is typical politics. First of all, it's owned by Hillary fans. You know, these are people that are big supporters of Hillary and Obama. And I think maybe even more importantly, they have had tremendous pressure put on them because, you know, we have a signed contract. It's signed. It's a 5-year deal. It's a lot of money for the Miss Universe, Miss USA. And they wanted me to be silent about all of the bad trade deals that the United States has made. We are making horrible deals. And as you know, I've been running for president talking about the horrible trade deals, including with Mexico, whether it's the Ford plant for $2.5 billion that's not coming here, it's going to Mexico. The plant that was taken out of Tennessee that everybody thought was going into Tennessee and it ends up going to Mexico. And it's killing our country. Plus, I talk about the border. I love Mexico and I love the people of Mexico. And I make that clear. I have many friends from Mexico and they're terrific people. But my loyalty is to the United States. And I'm running for the president of the United States. And as you know, I'm doing pretty well. And one of the reasons is because I'm exposing the weaknesses and I would almost say corruption because it's hard to believe it can be anything else, but certainly incompetence. And if you look at how Mexico is ripping us off in trade, ripping us off at the border, I expose it. And because of that, Univision sent us a notice, and they can't even do it. I mean, I have a fantastic lawsuit. I'll sue them for a lot of money, and that's fine. But they wanted me to be silent, and I can't be silent. Now, here's the difference. A politician in my position, they would immediately fold and be silent. And Mexico would go along and continue to rip off the United States with all these horrible trade deals that are happening. We need jobs in the United States. We need money coming into, you know, we owe soon $19 trillion. We need money coming into the United States. We need manufacturing here. We don't need plants being built in Mexico. So by my taking a very strong stand, and especially now that I'm running for president, they said, we can't have this, because I think they have about 70% of their company is based in Mexico. A big percentage of their country has to do with Mexico. And I'm not going to be silenced.
But did it surprise you to see a form of business retaliation come because of your political stance?
A little bit, not that much, because I know how the game is played. You know, I give up a lot. When I run for president, there's a case, millions and millions of dollars. They said, we're not going to pay you anymore unless you're silent. We're not going to pay you anymore. I give up a lot. When other people run for, they don't give up. They're politicians. They're all talk, they're no action. They would never do what I'm doing. They would say, oh, I will be silent. I will do whatever you have to do because I don't want to be hurt economically. But I give up a lot. Here's an example. I have to go to war with Univision now because of this. A politician, they run for office, they win, they lose, it doesn't matter. That's all they do is they run and they talk. They're all talk and no action. I'm action. So I love this country. We have to bring our country back. We have to make America great again. I mean, it's my theme. We have to make America great again. So Univision will pay a very big price by the time I'm finished with them.
All right, let's move to another big story. 6-3 decision from the Supreme Court, basically saving Obamacare, saying those subsidies can continue. Your reaction to that Supreme Court decision?
Well, it's shocking because on the papers, there's no way that we were supposed to lose that case. The country lost it. The people of this country lost it. And if you think about it, Justice Roberts is the one that killed this, because this previous decision, which was even a more powerful decision in terms of killing Obamacare, he voted shockingly in favor of keeping it. He was appointed by President Bush. Justice Roberts was wanted very badly by Jeb Bush. He was pushing him very hard. Justice Roberts is why we have this horrible thing called Obamacare. So we have to repeal it, we have to replace it. If I get in, I will repeal it and I will replace it with something great. But think about it. Bush appointed Justice Roberts. Okay? Justice Roberts is a disaster. Now, in my opinion, he only did it because he wants to be loved on the Beltway. That's why Justice Roberts did this. So He was an appointee by President Bush, pushed very hard by Jeb Bush, and people should remember this when they're thinking about voting for Jeb Bush.
Well, let's talk more about the situation with Justice Roberts. The Chief Justice, you say it's because of the Beltway. The guys in the White House right now, that's the Chicago Cook County crowd. Do you think something else was at work other than legal scholarship or popularity?
I don't know what's at work. If you read it, I'm pretty good at the law also. You read it, there's no way you can lose that case. And they lost the case. And frankly, the previous, they should have won 100%. The original Justice Roberts surprise, that was the big surprise. That would have ended it entirely. This would have killed it and ultimately ended it. So Bush gave us Justice Roberts. Jeb Bush pushed him hard, really hard, wanted him badly, okay? So you better remember that when people go to the poll, they better remember who their friends are, because Jeb Bush did us no favors with Justice Roberts.
There are, in essence, term limits for the executive branch now, but not for Congress nor for the judiciary. Should there be term limits in Congress and also for the Supreme Court?
I'm okay with term limits, and certainly I think for the Supreme Court, you have some of these people, they're getting stale. And certainly term limits for Supreme Court is something you could certainly think about. But honestly, term limits work both ways. You can say the vote is the term limits, not for Supreme Court, but for other positions. I have friends that feel very strongly about term limits. I have friends that don't like them. Honestly, we have bigger problems in this country than term limits. That's the way I look at it. But I'm fine with term limits.
You focused on the Chief Justice of the United States. If you had to appoint a new one today, do you have an idea of who that would be?
Not of who, but I'd want somebody who would be very, very talented in terms of the law, a great judicial type person, somebody very, very smart and also very, very conservative.
You just said a minute ago about the Obamacare decision. It's time to repeal it and replace it. That's what President Trump would do. What would you replace it with?
There are so many things you can do to create great health insurance. The biggest thing you have to do is get rid of the borders. Go private. It'll take care of a vast majority of it. You'll get better. You'll get, the deductibles are killing people. The deductibles are so high, it's not even usable. The premiums are going through the roof, and on top of that, the government is losing a fortune. We're going to lose trillions of dollars on Obamacare, including jobs, including the jobs of doctors. Doctors are leaving their profession because of Obamacare. It's going to be that's one of the untapped and unknown secrets. Doctors are all leaving. They're retiring. They can't work under the system. There are many systems, but you have to get rid of the borders. When I would go to bid, I have a lot of people in New York, I can't bid from New Jersey, from Idaho, from Iowa, from New Hampshire. I'd like to have companies bidding from all over the place. I'll get like one bid. And that was set up very smartly by the insurance companies. So they have a monopoly. That's all it is. So they each have monopolies in different states. You get rid of those borders, you would see something really positive happen in terms of costs. And then you take care of the rest, because I am in favor of everybody being taken care of. You take care of the rest, and you can do that through a medical system. But people would have great coverage if you get rid of the borders and they could go private. You bring it into free enterprise, into private enterprise, you would have tremendous results. And you know what? It wouldn't cost the government anything. We would then take care of the people that weren't able to afford even that.
Coming up.
Why should you be the nominee? What does it take to beat Hillary Clinton?
Well, I think she's very beatable. She's got tremendous skeletons all over the place. We need somebody that literally will take this country and make it great again. We can do that. And I will tell you, I love my life. I have a wonderful family. They're saying, Dad, you're going to do something that's going to be so tough. All of my life I've heard that a truly successful person, a really, really successful person, and even modestly successful, cannot run for public office. I am officially running for President of the United States, and we are going to make our country great again.
Let's turn to the rough and tumble of politics. Looks like Hillary is the odds-on favorite for the Democrat nomination. Recent polling shows Governor Bush, even with her, perhaps even beating her. Why should you be the nominee? What does it take to beat Hillary Clinton?
Well, I think she's very beatable. She's got tremendous skeletons all over the place between the emails and all of the problems that she's got and has developed over years. I think she's very, very beatable. I don't think Bush will beat her, to be honest with you. I think that she will beat him, just like the last time a Clinton beat a Bush. I think it'll happen all over again. It's going to be a replay. And so I don't think that will happen. I think that if Bush gets the nomination, I think that Hillary will do very well against him.
Speaking of Mrs. Clinton, she made comments saying that what you said during your announcement speech, quote, could trigger people who are less than stable to do something like the recent shootings in Charleston. How do you respond to that?
Well, I don't think she even knows what she was saying. I guess she's talking about the Second Amendment. I'm a very big Second Amendment person, and I believe you have to go strongly on the Second Amendment. And you know, a great case is this horrible situation with the two prisoners in upstate New York. People that didn't want guns, all of a sudden they all have guns. They want to protect themselves. It's very interesting. A woman that was on television, I watched her with great vigor because her husband always wanted the gun, Second Amendment, and she didn't. And now she said, we have a gun in every drawer, we have a gun on every table, because they're afraid somebody's going to come into their house. So I am very big for Second Amendment, and Hillary isn't, and that's okay, different viewpoint, but I'm very strong on Second Amendment.
On the Republican side, at least in the consultant class, Karl Rove said, and I quote, "You're not a serious candidate." If he were sitting here right now, what would you say to Karl Rove?
Well, I don't respect Karl Rove. He spent $430 million on different races and he didn't win one. He wasted money. I saw some of the commercials they took for candidates and I thought they were the candidates on the other side. I thought he was representing Democrats. It was so bad. I'm not a fan of Karl Rove and he knows that. So what's he going to say? Now all of a sudden he's saying, wow, he actually did file. Because, you know, that statement was made a little bit earlier. And he did file. Now the polls are coming out where I'm essentially in first and second place all over, and he's sort of changing his tune, but he'll change his tune. But Karl Rove is somebody that I don't even think he should be on television. He spent $430 million on campaigns and he didn't win one campaign. Why is he talking on television like as somebody that knows something? I'm really about making our country great. I'm about bringing back wealth to our country so that we can, you know, it sounds a little bit crass. Somebody said, oh, make the country rich. And they said, oh, that's a little bit crass. It's not crass. We have no money. We're like a debtor country. We're a third world country. We're a debtor country. We owe trillions of dollars. You know, when we get to 24 trillion, we're at just about 19 now. When we get to $24 trillion, that's like the point of no return. That's when we become a large-scale version of Greece. And we're going to be there pretty quickly. We better get somebody that really knows what he's doing as president, and I know. And that's why I have Univision. They don't want me to talk badly about Mexico, and I don't speak badly about Mexico. I love Mexico. I love Mexico. I think it's great. Their leaders are much smarter than our leaders. That's the problem. I mean, they have negotiators that are killing us. They kill us at the negotiating table. They're killing us on the southern border, and I have to talk about it. Be a lot easier not to bother, but I have to talk about it. And I think that's one of the reasons that I'm resonating.
Well, speaking of that resonating, the poll yesterday in New Hampshire has you just behind Governor Bush. The new national poll from Fox has you just behind Governor Bush by a couple of percentage points. Does it surprise you that your message has resonated the way it has?
Well, it's an interesting question, the word surprise. I don't think I'm that surprised because I get the biggest audiences, I get by far the biggest crowds, I get the most standing ovations, and I talk about trade, and I talk about our military has to be rebuilt because our military is terrible what's going on. I mean, we bring 2,300 Humvees, and within a few days our enemy has them. We're not talking about 2 or 3, we're talking 2,300, and these are armor plated, these are very expensive vehicles. A bullet's fired in the air, and the people we gave them to immediately run, and the enemy takes them over. And the equipment we have isn't as good as what the enemy has. Our military has to be rebuilt, our vets have to be taken care of, our health insurance has to be dealt with properly because people have horrible, horrible plans, including the fact that they don't have their doctor, etc., etc. and lots of things have to be done. So I'm not that surprised, because essentially that's my message. We have to make our country great, and that's really the message. You know, China has now taken over as number one. They've gone out, they've taken over as of a year ago, as you know. Number one. This was unthinkable 5 or 6 or 7 years ago. But China's taken over as number one. This should never happen. I want to get that number one spot back. And I'll get it back. But you can't make terrible deals with Mexico. You can't make terrible deals with China and Japan and every country that you can think of. We don't make good deals anymore. We have people that are there for political reasons. We have people that are controlled, totally controlled by lobbyists and special interests and donors. And we can't make good deals anymore.
Coming up.
You're going to self-finance your campaign. You're
Yes.
not looking for help. Have people started writing you checks anyway?
Essentially, I'm self-financing. I don't want anybody's money, but a lot of people are sending in money.
You said in your announcement, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're going to self-finance your campaign. You're
Yes.
not looking for help. Have people started writing you checks anyway?
Yes, they have. They want to do it anyway. But essentially, I'm self-financing. I don't want anybody's money, but a lot of people are sending in money because they like my message. Essentially, they're tired of being ripped off. And with me, we're not going to be ripped off anymore. Give you an example. Saudi Arabia. I like Saudi Arabia. I make a lot of money with Saudi Arabia. They pay me fortunes to buy apartments and other things, okay? They make $1 billion a day. $1 billion a day. Whenever they're in trouble, we go and defend them. I think that's okay. Why aren't they helping out? Why aren't they saying, we want to help you out a little bit? You're a debtor nation. We're a debtor nation. I don't know if you know that or not, but we're a debtor nation. Big league, okay? A big league debtor nation. Why aren't we saying, help us out, fellas. Come on, baby. Let's go. Help us out. We don't even ask the question. The deal with Iran, the nuclear deal with Iran. We have 4 people over there that should be released from prison immediately. Why aren't we saying you got to release those people right away? If you had the right messenger, those 4 people would come out immediately. We don't even bring it up. We're paying Iran hundreds of billions of dollars. Okay, you know that, right? Right now. Why do we hold those payments until such time as the nuclear deal is done? Because we have people that are incompetent. Everything about our country and our representatives seems to be incompetent. Sergeant Bergdahl, I call Obama the 5-for-1 president. We get Bergdahl, a horrible traitor, who in the old days you would shoot for being a traitor. We lost 6 young, beautiful people trying to get him out. 6 people died, 6 soldiers. So we get Bergdahl, they get 5 killers that are out on the battlefield already, that they wanted very badly. So those things wouldn't happen with me.
Let me ask, because yesterday a change in the position of this administration in terms of letting families negotiate separately and pay ransom. What's your take on that? What would a President Trump be doing if Americans were held hostage?
It is a very difficult subject. I would absolutely not do it. You cannot, you're going to have people all over the world, if they have the American tag on them. And you know, it's been tried before. It's not like it's something that's unique. And all it does is every week the price just keeps going up, 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 and more people get taken. It's something you just can't do. You can't do it. You're going to have problems like they've never had before. It's going to never be so bad as it is. Is it a nice thing to say? No. But as a business person, and as somebody that's watched this situation very closely, all it's going to do is go up, up, up. More and more people are going to be taken. I think it's a very bad thing.
Let's continue on the Middle East situation. You said you would defeat ISIS in
Yes.
your opening statement.
I would.
What would you do to do that? Does that include American boots on the ground back in Iraq?
First of all, the Kurds have to be brought into it because they're good fighters and we treat them terribly. And they're the ones that really seem to be the ones that fight. I would attack the oil. I would take away their source of power. I would take away their source of wealth. You will defeat ISIS.
When you say take away the oil,
Take away the oil.
and by military presence going in and taking over the refineries?
I would bomb the hell out of it. I'd bomb them. And by the way, you can rebuild that very quickly. When you get the Exxons of the world, they can rebuild very quickly. But I would take away their wealth. They are very wealthy. They're building a hotel in Syria. A hotel. They're competing with me. They're building a hotel in Syria. I don't think I'm going to be staying there. I don't think I want to. And you don't want to either, by the way. but they're actually building a hotel, and they're wealthy. You know where they're wealthy? From the oil. Now they get donations. I would cut that off. I would find out whoever gives donations, those are the enemy. And they're coming out of Saudi Arabia and other places. But I would absolutely cut off their source of wealth, which is the oil. I would bomb the hell out of them.
Okay, as commander-in-chief, you would have a massive aerial assault. But in military terms, you just can't do it by air power alone, can you?
I would look at it very carefully. We have other people involved. You do have some great fighters with the Kurds, and they're the ones that really do seem to be the fighters, and they know what they're doing. But they don't have the equipment. We're giving our equipment to people that run every time a bullet gets fired. So I would look very strongly at doing what I said, and I think we would win, and win quickly.
Obviously, part of the campaign of running for president is to persuade people you're the guy. But taking a look at the Republican field, and there are a whole lot of people there and some more coming. Besides Donald Trump, who impresses you in this Republican field of presidential candidates?
I know many of them. I don't know all of them. They're politicians. Remember this. A politician is all talk, no action. They're not going to get us to the promised land, and I've been saying this. They are not getting us there. They're controlled by lobbyists. They're controlled by their donors. They're controlled by special interests. They are not getting us to our they're just not getting us there. If you're looking at making our country great again, they're not going to do it.
All right, so we cut out everybody in public office right now. That leaves you. That leaves Dr. Ben Carson, who, by the way, yesterday was quoted at Newsmax.com saying that you're a man of considerable accomplishment. But the third non-politician, even though she ran for the Senate from California, is Carly Fiorina. By the process of exclusion, are those the top three? Trump?
Well, first of all, I like them both. I don't know them well. I know Ben a little bit, and I think he's a terrific person. I really like him. But, you know, again, he's a doctor. He's a heart doctor. And probably a very good one, but I just don't know. But I like Ben very much. I don't know Carly, but I like her very much. But she had a tremendously hard time at Hewlett-Packard, and she had a hard time with an election that she lost to Boxer in California in a landslide. So that bothers me. I mean, maybe it's not the end all, I guess, because she's running, and I like her, and I like Ben. But look, we all have strengths and weaknesses. My strength is I'll make this country so strong, and I'll create jobs like nobody else can. Nobody can create jobs like I do. And I'll strengthen up our borders, and I'll be big with the vets, and I'll be big with the military, because our military is treated badly and our vets are treated horribly. Our vets are treated like third-class citizens. I mean, they're treated literally like third-class citizens, and we can't let that happen.
Well, now there's a situation. Top executive from Procter & Gamble goes over to run the VA, and the problems remain the same.
He's been stymied. He's been stymied at every corner. They're using the wrong systems, and I would know how to clean it up. Look, you know, we go and build a hospital. A hospital costs $1 billion. And I can build a building down the street for 1/10 the cost. Look what I did at the Woolman skating rink years ago. Look what I did recently in New York. 30 years they've been building this project in the Bronx. I took it over and I got it built like in a matter of months, very quickly, I know what I'm doing. Our country has a tremendous infrastructure problem. We have to build, and that also creates jobs. That's a really good situation, because if you know what you're doing. Now, at the same time, you don't want to build a road for $1 trillion if you can build it for $1 million. But that's the way the government works. It wouldn't work that way with me. So I think I'm resonating for those reasons, and those are important reasons. I'm a job-creating dream.
One of the things that artificially inflates prices for the government is Davis-Bacon prevailing wage scale. As president, would you end Davis-Bacon and economize construction projects in that fashion?
Well, what I'd do is I'd make sure that we have a system in place that lets us get the best bids. I would generally bid out to contractors. I hate seeing government projects where you have government employees doing it. I would bid out. I'd have a great system of bidding. I'd also create an award system. I sometimes don't give to the lowest bidder. You know, when I give, I'm building the old post office. I'm building a great hotel on Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington. I didn't always give to the lowest bidder, because sometimes I'd have a bidder that was low, but I know he's no good. I know he's a big extras guy. I know he's going to try and rip me off in the end. And I'll give to a guy who's actually a little bit higher, but in the long run, he's a much better contractor, and it'll end up being much cheaper. Right now, you have to give to the lowest bidder and the lowest bid. And, you know, the plans are so important. There's so many things that go into it to do it right. But we will devise a system where we get our infrastructure rebuilt, where we create jobs, and it gets done at a reasonable cost.
coming up.
You mentioned in your announcement, said, you're rich.
More importantly, I didn't say that to brag. I said that our country has tremendous potential. We have tremendous people. The greatest social program is a job. I will be the greatest jobs president that God ever created. I tell you that.
Some would argue one of the great infrastructure projects is something you called for in your announcement, and that is the wall, a secure border with Mexico. Yet you say you want the Mexicans to pay for it.
I would build the greatest wall. Nobody can build like me. You look at my buildings, look at Chicago, look at New York, look at what I've done. I built, and these are very complicated projects. Walls are easy. I would build at the right price, and I would get Mexico to pay for it. Mexico will pay for it. Look at this Univision. Look at the pressure they put on Univision to try and not do business with me because I'm exposing Mexico for just making deals. And honestly, I'm not blaming Mexico. Their negotiators are better than our negotiators, far better. It's not even that. It's like the New England Patriots playing your high school football team. They're killing us in trade. They're killing us. So I would get, they make a fortune. Just so you understand, don't feel sorry for Mexico. They're making a fortune off the United States. They have taken advantage of us for a long time, between trade and between the border. They will pay for that wall. They will pay for it. Remember what I said. They will pay for that wall.
As you mentioned this, I think of a Mexican billionaire, Carlos Slim. Do you know him? Have you had any dealings with him?
No, I don't.
Has his bargaining been the thing that prevailed in Mexico's ruling class to put the U.S. at a disadvantage?
Well, he certainly made a good deal with Mexico, and I don't know him. I hear he's a very nice person. Actually, my daughter Ivanka is very friendly with his son, and she tells me he's a terrific young guy.
You said earlier, we were talking about the Supreme Court. You made it clear there's a Jeb Bush Justice Roberts connection.
Jeb Bush was pushing Justice Roberts. Justice Roberts gave us Obamacare. It wasn't only Obama, it was Roberts. It should be called Roberts Obama, and Obama could, maybe come second.
Let me ask you then, is Jeb Bush, of the Republican candidates, would he be, despite the polls, do you think it's the most problematic for Jeb Bush? Would he have the toughest time? Or I guess what I'm asking is, who is the weakest candidate in the Republican field?
Oh, I don't think it's a really relevant question because there's so many. I mean, it's almost like an army of candidates. I've never seen anything like it. So there's a lot of people. But no, I don't think he would be the weakest candidate, actually. But he certainly has a lot of problems. Number one, he's in favor of Common Core. That means he wants children, he wants a source of education coming out of D.C. with the bureaucrats. If I'm in Iowa, if I'm in New Hampshire, if I'm in California, if I'm in New York, I want local people to work with the children. I don't want somebody in Washington that's never even seen my state. So that's one thing. And the other thing, he's very weak on immigration. Remember, they come for love, okay? Illegals are coming in for love. What was that all about? That's Jeb Bush. He's very weak on immigration, and he's in favor of Common Core. Those two things alone should beat him. But on top of that, he'll be a lousy negotiator. He will owe everybody, because, all of this money that he's raising, do you think he's raising it so innocently? Like, oh, the guy's giving millions of dollars for nothing? Every person that gives that money to him has his eye on something. With me, I don't want any money.
Let me ask you, because last time you and I got together was down in Florida. There's another Floridian running for the Republican nomination, Marco Rubio. Your take on Senator Rubio?
I don't know him. I think it's early for him. I didn't like his grabbing the water after following the presidential speech. I thought that was the weirdest thing I've seen in a long time on live television, where he's grabbing the water and chugging water in the middle of a little retort that lasted for a few minutes. I don't know him well enough to say. I hope he's a nice person. I think he's very disloyal to Jeb Bush because, in all fairness, it was Jeb Bush's turn, more or less. Jeb Bush, according to all accounts, and I spent a lot of time in Florida. I have Doral, I have many projects in Florida, Mar-a-Lago, tremendously successful projects in Florida. I know it very well. I think it was a very hard thing. And, one of the things I don't like about political speech and speak is that when Jeb Bush, in a recent interview with Sean Hannity, by the way, he was asking about the different candidates. And one of the questions was, Marco Rubio, give a couple of words. He said, a dear friend. He's not a dear friend. But a politician will say that, a dear friend. They should be honest. He's so angry, and he has so much hatred right now for Marco Rubio. But instead of being honest and saying, I'm disappointed in him or something, he said, a dear friend. That's called political speak, and I don't like it. I don't like it. Our country can't deal with that anymore. We have to get back to business.
Senator Rubio was part of the Gang of Eight pushing that amnesty bill through the Senate. He now says that's a mistake. Do you think he learned his lesson, or is this a political?
Look, what happened to him is he was in favor of, he was very weak on immigration, basically. He was very weak. And he was pushing it, and he went down like a rocket ship, and all of a sudden he said, oh, well, I don't mean that. I'm only kidding. That's not the kind of guy you want, because you know where his heart is. But he only did that because he dropped like a rock in the polls. I don't think, look, I don't want to say anybody's overrated, but this is not the next Ronald Reagan, okay?
Coming up,
when did the idea of becoming president start to resonate with Donald Trump? As a young man, or is it a fairly recent development? You talked about this for years before, but now you jumped in. Why now?
Not as a young man, but as a man who was doing well and watching the country slowly deteriorate. I'm really proud of my success. I really am. I've employed tens of thousands of people over my lifetime. So I have a total net worth, and now with the increase, it'll be well over $10 billion. I'm not doing that to brag, because you know what? I don't have to brag. I don't have to, believe it or not. I'm doing that to say that that's the kind of thinking our country needs.
You mentioned in your announcement, said, you're rich, and nobody disputes you're a billionaire. The other day when you were putting, I think you said your net worth is somewhere around $9 billion. The fellows at Forbes say it's $4.1 billion. Why the discrepancy there?
Well, first of all, it's real estate, and Forbes doesn't know my assets. I mean, what do they know? I'm a private company. They don't know my assets. And not that it matters whether it's 4.1 and they said that's a very conservative estimate. Who cares? I gave my statement. That's fine. Whether they're right or wrong, I know I'm right. I know my assets. But more importantly, I didn't say that to brag. I said that because that's the kind of thinking. You know, a lot of people said, I'm rich, and they stopped it. I said, I'm really rich. I built a great company. I have some of the great assets of the world, including this one. But I told them, and I told everybody, it went on, and they cut it. I said, and that's the kind of thinking that we need at the top of this country, because we have to make our country rich again, or we're going to be in big trouble. We're not going to have a country. So when I said I'm rich, I said I'm rich. I built a great company because of the fact that that's, you know, and the reason I said that is because that's the kind of thinking we need in this country at the top. And if we don't have that thinking, we're in serious trouble.
As a kid growing up, learning real estate from your dad, did you ever expect to be a billionaire?
I never thought about it. I just wanted to come to Manhattan. My father said, son, that's not for us, because we were in Brooklyn, mostly in Queens, and doing, you know, different projects, but smaller. I said, Pop, I want to build those big buildings. I want to build those. And he said, son, it's not for us. We don't know anything about that. It's not for us. And, you know, look, I became great. It was wonderful. I loved it. I loved doing it. I have buildings all over Manhattan. Now I have buildings all over the world. So I've had a lot of fun. I had a great father. I learned a lot from my father. But the one thing is he really didn't want to come to Manhattan because he felt it wasn't our expertise.
Well, you went to Manhattan and beyond. Now you want to go to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. When did the idea of becoming president start to resonate with Donald Trump? As a young man, or is it a fairly recent development? You talked about this for years before, but now you jumped in. Why now?
Not as a young man, but as a man who was doing well and watching the country slowly deteriorate. And now it's at a point where I really felt I had no choice. I love what I do. I would just assume continue. I have a great show that's been renewed. I'm the only one that they renew The Apprentice. They renewed it. I mean, officially, you know that better than I do. They officially renewed it. And I said, no, I'm not doing it. And Mark Burnett actually called me and said, I can't believe you're not taking a renewal. Everybody takes a renewal. You know, very few shows are renewed. It's hard to get a renewal. He said, you have a major renewal for many, many shows and you're not taking it. I said, that's right. We have to make our country great again. I know politicians, they're not going to do it. I can do it. So I looked at it over the years. I was very disappointed in the performance of Mitt Romney last time. I was very disappointed because that's an election that should have been won. He should have won that election. And he choked. Something happened to him in the last 4 months. I don't know what it was, the last 4 or 5 weeks, 6 weeks. He wasn't anywhere. Obama, in all fairness to Obama, he was on Leno, he was on David Letterman, he was all over the place. And Romney was like gone. So something very bad happened, and it's a shame.
Speaking of Romney, about the immigration question, he said people would self-deport. A lot of politicians said, oh, we're not going to send people back home. But has it come the time for a type of operation reunification to send people back to the country of their origin if they've come here illegally, albeit in a humane and compassionate way?
I will tell you one thing. The bad people we should send back, and we should send them back fast. We have plenty of bad ones. We have some great ones. We have some wonderful ones. But we have plenty of bad ones. And the bad ones we should get out of here really fast and send them back where they came from.
You're in it to win it. You're in for the long haul. This is not a stunt. Some people say it's for branding, it's for name recognition.
I don't think anybody says that anymore. I think they did say that. Nobody's saying it anymore. And I'm first and second in the polls, and I don't think they say that anymore. You know, I just don't think they say it anymore. But I like to win, and I want to win for the country. And I'm not in it for anything else but winning. And I'll tell you what, you get into that White House, I won't be leaving it for vacations all the time, because there's a lot of work to be done to straighten out this country. We need so many things done between the military and between the infrastructure and between everything we've been talking about. We have to straighten out our country, or we're no longer going to be a great country. Some people say we're not a great country right now. We have to straighten out our country, and it has to happen fast.
Donald Trump, thank you so much for your time and your insights.
Thank you very much. Great honor. Thank you.
My honor.
The Republican presidential race for 2016 is heating up, and more contenders are throwing their hats into the ring. Who are they? Where do they stand on the key issues? Who has what it takes to be America's next commander-in-chief? Newsmax answers with Decision 2016, the GOP race for the White House. This voter's guide is this year's must-read for every conservative, and it's 100% free. Nothing to buy, no credit card required. Just go to newsmax.com/GOP 2016. Get the inside scoop on top GOP contenders, discover their views on key issues facing the nation, and learn what's at stake for us all. No liberal spin, no mainstream media bias. Get it all, get it instantly, get it free, only from Newsmax. Written by conservatives for conservatives. It's not to be missed. Get your copy of this critical 2016 election guide. Go to newsmax.com/GOP 2016 and get your copy today. For the record, Donald Trump was very generous with his time. He spent twice as much with us as had originally been scheduled. Our interview took place quite literally on his turf, inside the Trump Bar, which is inside Trump Tower, on Fifth Avenue in New York City. The day we sat down to talk, Univision had just announced that it would sever ties with Trump. You heard Donald tell me that he would take them to court, and he has, filing a $500 million lawsuit. Subsequently, NBC and Macy's have also played taps on their business deals with Trump, and so, for that matter, has the Chicago craft brewery Five Rabbit. But Trump is not running from his comments concerning Mexican illegals who have come to this country. If anything, he's doubled down. To the politically correct establishment, his comments are rash, but to many grassroots conservatives, they're refreshing and they resonate. The political establishment has always insisted on using diplomatic phrasing, but times have changed. Donald Trump's popularity has come largely through his unvarnished comments. Forget the so-called straight talk or the plain speaking of the past. Today, it is genuine candor that people crave. And thus far, many believe they have found that candor in Donald Trump. Some political consultants have suggested that Trump needs to say we instead of me, and that what they perceive as his ceaseless self-promotion will wear thin. Maybe so. But for now at least, Donald John Trump is very much in the running for president. Thanks for watching. I'm J.D. Hayworth for Newsmax TV.